Boron supplements raise testosterone, or that's what the influencers like to say, but is it really true? I've looked at the actual research on this, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. Watch this video to the end, and you will be an authority on boron and testosterone. So boron is classified as a trace mineral. In other words, we don't need a lot of it to stay healthy. Nonetheless, it does appear to take part in some very important biochemical processes, ranging from attention span and lowering inflammation. It may improve insulin sensitivity, and some research also shows that it appears to raise not only estrogen but also testosterone levels too. And today we're going to zero in on that testosterone research. Considering all the wide array of things that it appears to do, it's a logical question to wonder, how much do we actually need? So there's no recommended dietary allowance for boron, but it is believed that most men and women can consume safely up to 20 milligrams per day. Above 20 milligrams, it's believed the risk for side effects do occur, although I was unable to uncover any conclusive side effects tied to boron dietary supplements. That said, if you're pregnant or you have kidney problems, you do want to take some extra precaution with this. It's estimated that food provides about 1 milligram of boron daily to the diet, although some organizations like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics suggest a range of anywhere from 2 to 2.5 milligrams a day for women and men respectively. Either way you slice it, however, most people don't get a lot of boron in their diet. That said, generally this is a pretty easy mineral to get in your diet. As a rule, fruits, green leafy vegetables, beans are good sources of this mineral. And to give you a better idea, here is a list of the top 10 boron containing foods. As you can see, there is some good news if you like raisins. Okay, so what about testosterone? Is boron really an anabolic mineral? The only way to know for sure is to look at the actual research, and that's what we're going to do right now. This is probably the first study a lot of people think of where testosterone and estrogen increased in postmenopausal women who, after eating a low boron diet, were given boron supplements. And while that's nice, raising testosterone in a woman between the ages of 48 and 82 who's eating a low boron diet is probably of little significance to men who are working out regularly. So what else do we have? Well, here's a clinical trial that gets an awful lot of attention among boron advocates because it appears to be one of the very first studies to show that boron raises testosterone. It's a small investigation involving only 8 healthy men who were given 10 milligrams of boron daily with breakfast for 1 week. As you can see from this table, free testosterone increased from 11.8 to 15.1 picograms per milliliter. In other words, free testosterone increased by 3.35 picograms per milliliter. That comes to about a 28% improvement in free testosterone. However, total testosterone did not improve. I also want to call your attention to another molecule called sex hormone binding globulin. This is the carrier molecule that essentially transports testosterone through the blood. As you can see from this table, on the very first day of the study, 6 hours after supplementation, sex hormone binding globulin decreased from 32.2 nanomoles per liter down to 29.7. And that is a significant reduction. And while that's nice, let's remember this study lasted 7 days. What happened 7 days later to sex hormone binding globulin? Was it still lower than normal? No. As you can see from this table, morning blood samples taken on the final day of the study showed no significant reduction in sex hormone binding globulin. And that is an important point because when influencers tout the ability of boron to lower sex hormone binding globulin, they're only telling you about the results that happened after day 1. They're not telling you what happened after 7 days. Bottom line, this is a small, underpowered clinical trial, which I think has some problems, but nonetheless, our story doesn't end here. Now let's look at the next paper. In this clinical trial, 8 healthy men take boron supplements twice daily with breakfast and with dinner for 4 weeks, and then they switch over to taking a placebo for 4 weeks. As the authors point out, total testosterone rose from 17.4 to 19.4 nanomoles per liter, but this was not a statistically significant improvement in testosterone. What the boron supplement did do, however, is significantly raise estrogen, estradiol, in the men, where it increased from 51.9 to 73.9 picomoles per liter, again after just 4 weeks. Next up is this intriguing study involving bodybuilders who took boron supplements. 19 male bodybuilders with normal testosterone levels at the start of this study lifted weights as usual for 7 weeks, the difference being some of them took 2.5 milligrams of boron daily or a placebo. As we can see from this table, the men taking boron supplements saw a rise in total testosterone from 5.4 to 7.2 nanograms per milliliter, while the placebo takers also saw an increase from 5.4 to 6.5 nanograms per milliliter. So both groups saw an improvement in testosterone, but here's the thing, boron supplements did not raise testosterone more than just lifting weights by itself. And we see a similar picture for free testosterone as well, where it increased from 7.3 to 19.9 picograms per milliliter in the boron group versus 19.5 to 20.9 picograms per milliliter in those who did not take the supplement. Translation: in this investigation of young, healthy men with normal testosterone levels, boron supplements did not raise either free testosterone or total testosterone any more than lifting weights by itself. Likewise, this study also revealed that boron supplements failed to increase 1 repetition maximum on either the bench press or the squat exercise. Here's a more recent investigation involving 19 young volleyball players, and while they don't actually mention whether they were men or women, based on their height and weight, my guess is these were probably men. They're randomly given either a boron supplement or a placebo to take daily with food while they work out as they normally do. The good news is they report that free testosterone following exercise increases from about 18.3 to about 23, but the not so good news is if you look closely at this table, they don't report the units of free testosterone. And in my book, something as simple as that should have been caught in the peer review process. I also want to point out that this study reports no improvement in free testosterone from boron supplements. Here's a table of the boron testosterone clinical trials I was able to locate. Pause the video and take a closer look, and notice that the research involving men used boron supplements ranging from as low as 2.5 up to 10 milligrams per day. Now, if we only look at the investigations involving men, we can see the results are somewhat conflicting. For example, in this paper, 2.5 milligrams of boron did not raise free testosterone more than just working out by itself. However, in this paper, 2 milligrams of boron did raise testosterone after exercise. Likewise, both of these studies, which used higher amounts of boron, failed to see significant improvements in total testosterone, although one of them did see significant improvements in free testosterone. Now, coming full circle, influencers like to cite the research on boron as a testosterone booster. However, that very same research seems to indicate that boron is far from an anabolic mineral. And to be fair, much of this research is flawed in my opinion, so the only way to know for sure if boron supplements really do raise testosterone is to, number one, first, get your free and total testosterone measured, try a boron supplement for a month, and then remeasure your anabolic hormone levels. And until better studies are published, I will remain highly skeptical on the ability of boron to raise testosterone. However, I will be very interested to know if it worked for you.